Hey guys, my name is Danish and welcome back to my channel, and it is good to be back here. I've missed making these videos for a couple of weeks now, and two of them were phenomenally action packed, and I did sit and make notes about all of the things that happened in the race, but I just did not have the time to make the videos and edit the videos and put it out for you guys, so I'm sorry for that. But it's too late now to comment on the things that have happened in the previous 2 weeks, so let's just get started into this weekend, which was Zandvoort at the Dutch Grand Prix. So let's just get started. So first things first, the biggest news that we got was Kimi Raikkonen retiring, and that opens up the silly circus for all of the unconfirmed seats that are there for the 2022 season, and that includes technically and probably Bottas and Russell. So that is going to be an interesting mix of things. I'll have all of the lineup that have already been confirmed for the next years, and all of the ones are in danger will be here at the bottom, so you'll know all of the things that are going to happen in the upcoming weeks. And Russell and Bottas already know what's going to happen to either of them, but they haven't really announced it to the public, so we are just waiting for the public announcement. But it's just already there. Russell will most probably go to Mercedes. Bottas is going to Alfa Romeo, replacing Kimi. Antonio Giovinazzi is in danger as well. That could go to Albon or Nick De Vries. Even the Williams seat is open now. So there are a lot of people who are there looking to get into F1, and it's going to be an interesting race mix. And another big news was Kimi Raikkonen tested positive for COVID. So Robert Kubica is debuting for him and taking his place. Giga Kubica for the win. Let's see how he goes in this race weekend. So Zandvoort is not a traditional newer style circuit, it is an old school circuit with a lot of proper banking and angle put into them. The turn 3, the final turn, and even the turn 10, all steeply banked, and they really are really interesting to look through. And looking at the cars going through them at high speeds, it was really fun to watch, especially in the FP1 sessions where everybody is learning the track and they don't have any data on this. And we had this type of excitement when we went to Mugello for the first time in a long time, because the teams do not have any data, so they cannot engineer the cars and their setups and all of that, and it makes it a bit more dynamic and a lot more on the driver to see what they have to do to get the max out of their car. So FP1, we had a red flag with Sebastian retiring. His car was, I think, live with power, so they could not remove the car without doing all the safety things of all the electrical safety. So that took up half an hour of FP1, so only half an hour of running. FP2, Hamilton retires, loss of power, another red flag. Nikita Mazepin loses it at turn 11, another red flag. FP3, Sainz goes into the barrier, another red flag. All of the sessions had a red flag this weekend, including the feeder series. All of them had a red flag in either one or the other of their sessions as well. That's how tricky this is, because there is no large runoff areas and there is no places and cubby holes where the marshals can push a car inside and then recover it at the end of the session. So for each and every incident, they had to shut the track down, pull out the red flag, and bring in the service vehicles onto the track to take care of them. Then we came to qualifying. Qualifying was an interesting thing because we had a lot of good drivers who were not finding pace, like Vettel was not finding his pace in the car. In the Aston Martin over here, the Aston Martins did not have a really fun weekend over this race, so it was interesting to see them not go out of the bottom 10. But at the end, we lost 5 drivers, which was Sergio Perez P16, Vettel 17, Kubica 18, Mick 19, and Mazepin 20. So the Haas and Alfa Romeo are understandable, but Antonio Giovinazzi came 4th because of the final run he did. The track ramped up like crazy, and Gio, who was in an Alfa, came out 4th. So that is the level of pace that the track was pushing and heating up. So it was interesting to see such people show their pace and come into the other 2 segments of Q2 and Q3. So after Q1, we came into Q2, and it was normal running for most people. Russell was still out of the top 10 after his first run, and then the second run didn't really come out because there was a red flag because Nicholas Latifi went into the wall, and then they had about 4 minutes to restart the session. And if there is a red flag in practice sessions, the clock does not stop and it keeps moving. If the red flag goes up in a qualifying session, the clock has to be stopped and then resumed after green flag conditions. So that is a bit of a boon for the drivers because it gives them more time to prep and put in a lap instead of losing all the time behind the red flag. So Q2 first red flag because of Latifi, 4 minutes remaining, and then all of them went out. Then Russell spun out, so that's another red flag with 1 minute 38 seconds left, which was not enough time for the cars to come out again and get a faster lap, so the session was not restarted. So the lineup stood as P11 Russell, P12 Stroll, P13 Norris, P14 Latifi, and P15 Tsunoda. So both the Williams out in Q2 this time around. Stroll and Norris had a bit of a bad run over here. He came out P13, out of place for him. Now coming on to Q3, it was normal, no accidents. First run went out, the second runs went out, and at the end we had Verstappen at the top, which was obvious because home country, home crowd gives him a bit more space and a bit more speed, just like Hamilton gets in Britain at Silverstone. So Verstappen P1, Hamilton P2, and Bottas P3. Another Red Bull went out in Q1, so it was a bit of a hamper for the strategy. But then Pierre Gasly P4 in an Alpha Tauri. It was a great effort from Pierre Gasly, Leclerc and Sainz in both Ferraris in 5th and 6th, Gio 7th, Ocon and Alonso 8 and 9, and the lone McLaren being Ricciardo in 10th. So Ricciardo actually came up and out qualified Norris this time around, which is good to see that he's settling into the car and adapting and starting to put in his performances. So that is a good thing to see from Ricciardo. Now coming on to the race, we already got news that Perez was going to do a pit lane start because they had to do an engine change. He was already low down in the order, so a pit lane change was not that big of an issue for him. He dropped about 4 places, that's all. So after that it was 5 lights were on, then everybody left, and it was an uneventful lap 1. Seriously, there were no accidents, there was no rain. It was hard to adapt to seeing a race start without a safety car or a red flag coming out in the past few weekends, so it was an interesting readjustment for all of us. And yeah, Alonso got up a few places right off the instant. It was good for him, but the rest, not a lot happened. Perez started to do his climb from the bottom, but it wasn't much of an overtaking race per se. There were overtakes happening here and there, but that was mostly because of the different pit stops. Coming to pit stops, there was a lot of mixing of strategies because it was technically thought of to be either a 1-stop or a 2-stop, but then when they got into the race, they got the degradation is a lot more higher, and one stop was impossible, so it had to be a 2-stop, but the leaders did something else, so I'll come to that. Perez did a lot of overtakes, and then on lap 21 Lewis pit for the first time from softs to mediums. Then the same lap Max comes into the pits for the same softs to mediums, and then it was the same chicken game that the Max and Lewis were having. Bottas was not really chasing the leaders, he was a bit behind on his own, so it was leaders racing up front, Bottas in the middle, and then the rest of the field who are way far back behind them. Perez was making overtake at turn 1 and at turn 10, making up places and climbing up nicely. Norris was doing the same thing, making up places and climbing up nicely starting from P13. And then the second pit stop started at lap 40. Lewis pit on lap 40 for mediums, and Max pit on lap 41 for the hards. Now this was where Mercedes made the mistake of putting Lewis on the mediums instead of the hards, because it was a long race and the degradation was high, so putting on the hards would have been a bit more of a safety measure because they could go longer, but they wanted to put in pure pace and try to overtake Max, but that didn't happen because Max had a lot more pace. And then Perez pits on lap 49 for the softs after starting on the hards, and then Perez comes into the top 10 by overtaking Russell and all of the others. And Bottas was also on a normal 2-stop, but they changed the strategy to a 1-stop by extending his first stint to help Hamilton and his strategy to keep one of the Mercedes drivers ahead when both of the leaders pit. So his race was really compromised this weekend because he was not there in the fighting in the front, so they did the team game and put him up there and let him stay out for a bit longer. And then Bottas finally pits on lap 78 for the softs. This was his second stop, so this was basically for a fastest lap attempt, but technically it was not for the fastest lap attempt. Technically it was for vibrations because the degradation could cause another Silverstone, but that's the reason the team gave. But the actual reason was P4 Gasly was pretty far away. There was a free stop in the middle for them, so they pitted Bottas first and then pit Lewis again, so they can retain their order in the championship and in the race to get the most points and give Lewis the most points advantage against Max Verstappen, who two are fighting for the championship. And then the controversial thing happened because Bottas was pushing after his pit stop and he put into purple sectors, and then they got a call from him to abort his fastest lap attempt, and he actually technically did. He maliciously complied and he put in a yellow sector in the final sector, but it was not that far off from his best time. So overall he did get the fastest lap, and Lewis had to do another run on last lap, and he got the fastest lap at the checkered flag. So this caused a lot of outrage on the internet. I have seen so many comments that Bottas was not allowed to show his true potential. Bottas is being toyed with Mercedes. How is this allowed? How is this fair for Bottas? Bottas had pace and all of that. That's just all hooey and irrelevant gibberish run by fanboys. The truth of the matter is, this is a championship game, and the larger game over here is to win the championship and win the constructors and the drivers. And overall, Bottas is not there fighting in contention for the championship. He's not even P3 in the championship. He came to P3 right this weekend in Zandvoort. Before that, he was not P3, he was P4 behind Norris for half of the season. So he is not technically in the fight for the championship either, and it is not really going to help either of the Mercedes or any team for that matter, where two of the same team are fighting each other for a single point, and somebody else like Max or Seb, when his prime, could come and swoop him from under them and get the championship out, while the two are squibbling. Team orders are there for a reason, that is to protect the team and reduce the chances of losing the championship, because even 1 point is enough to win the championship, and we have seen that before. Remember Massa in Brazil? Is that Glock? Lewis won by 1 point. Kimi Raikkonen and Lewis. Kimi won by 1 point in Brazil, and I think there was another half a point winning by Prost or somebody in the olden days. But that's the thing, championships can be won over 1 point as well, and giving the single point for the fastest lap is also equal to giving 22 points to the same driver. If he gets the fastest lap, that's 22 points that is won without winning a race. It's a huge amount of points, and even a single point is going to decide the championship. Teams will never be forgiving and giving equal opportunities or equal strategies to both the drivers, because obviously the driver who's leading the championship and leading the race will get the better strategy, and the driver who's behind will have to compromise his strategy, either willing or unwilling. Willing example was Russell 2 weeks ago, where he was ready to sacrifice his strategy for Latifi to win points. This time it was Bottas who got the Valtteri James dialogue. So it was some things that the team will do without even blinking an eye, because they are looking at the larger picture. And all of you fanboys who are hating over Mercedes or lording over Bottas and saying he should leave Mercedes, Bottas is a good driver, I agree with you, but compared to Lewis and Max, he is not on their level. He is not as consistent as them or as unforgiving as them. If he was, he could have won the championship in the same machinery like Nico did, and huge respect for Nico, because he has defeated Schumacher and Lewis in an equal car, and that is an achievement he will take to his grave. Bottas does not have that. He has a few over here and over there pole position laps, and in the race he always loses out to Mercedes and Lewis, because Lewis overtakes him and takes over the race. That's the crux of it. You cannot avoid this topic and think that just because he could have gotten the fastest lap that he should have gotten the fastest lap, because it's a point here. If there was no point, nobody would have cared about the fastest lap like all the years prior to Formula 1 introducing that point. And now with sprint qualifying and all of those are also giving points out, they also, people will fight over it to get even one single point even from there. So okay, I'll stop my rant and let's continue on with the final classification. Final classification was Max Verstappen P1, Hamilton P2, Bottas P3, Pierre Gasly P4 in a wonderful showing from him, Charles Leclerc P5, Alonso P6 who came up a lot in the race, Sainz P7, Perez P8 and Ocon P9, Norris P10 overtook Ricciardo. They also did a team switch. Nobody's screaming about that. Nobody's screaming that Ricciardo gave up a place. I don't know why, or I'm not looking in the correct places. Let me know in the comments where you saw that fanboyism, and let's go and roast people. I don't support roasting. Make funny banter and keep it light. Then we have Stroll and Vettel who did a good recovery in 12th and 13th. Gio was one of the bigger losers who came out in 14th, and where he started out P7. That shows that the Alfa Romeo does not have the race pace compared to the others who set up for the race, and Gio got into the top 10 because of the track ramp up and lucky timing from himself. Kubica P15, a good noble showing from himself, because he came up ahead of the Williams and Haas, where he hasn't driven an F1 car in 2 years. Yes, other than free practice sessions. This is his one race after 2 years of not racing in F1, so it was a great showing from Kubica. Latifi P16, Russell P17, Mick Schumacher P18, Tsunoda and Mazepin retired. I don't know why Mazepin retired, but Tsunoda retired due to engine troubles. Now coming to the Drivers' Championship, we have Max Verstappen at the top, Hamilton P2, Bottas P3. Finally, Bottas came to P3 and Norris is P4. Perez is P5 and Perez can come to P4 in a race or two and make the top 4 as Mercedes and Red Bull. And coming to this, this reminds me at the end of the race, it was just Lewis, Max and Bottas, the top 3 who were on the final lap. The rest of the grid was lapped. So Pierre Gasly, who came out P4 in the race, was a lap down to the leaders. That's what the pace that the leaders had, and especially Max and Lewis, who were pushing and pushing and pushing for 72 laps. That was an astounding thing that happened. And yeah, that was this Zandvoort race weekend, and it was not really that interesting, but the end was a bit of a spicy mess. The weekend started out spicy with all the red flags and the Kimi Raikkonen news, but the race really did not have too many natural overtakes. Perez came up, Norris came up, Alonso came up. Other than that, it was just the overtakes that were happening because of the different timing of the pits and people pitting and people overtaking and losing positions and all of that. So hopefully at Monza next weekend we have a good race weekend. Monza last year was pretty fun with the rain. Hopefully we get some more fun this weekend, and let's just hope we don't have the championship rivals crashing into each other again like Silverstone. So hopefully you like this video. If you like this video, give this video a like, get subscribed to my channel and ring the bell icon to receive notifications of all of my future videos. Comment down below about what points that happened during the race went unnoticed, and as always, stay home, stay safe. I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace.